I want a divorce, all communication through my lawyer, she texted. So I followed orders, canceled her cards, stopped all support, and 72 hours later, her lawyer was frantically calling to discuss terms. Hey guys, just need to get this off my chest. And for the record, every name in this story has been changed. I'm Jake, 33 years old, born and raised outside Kansas City. I'm a construction foreman, not the clipboard type either. We do big custom homes and commercial builds, so I'm on site most days managing crews, supplies, inspections, you name it. Not office work. It's hot, it's loud, it's hard, but it pays well and I'm damn good at it. I built my life with calloused hands and stubborn grit. House paid off. Truck in my name. No debt, no drama. My wife, Tessa, 30 years old, used to call me her rock. Stable, dependable, solid. She said those things like they were compliments. Like she wanted a man who kept the lights on and didn't flake. We met when we were both fresh out of school. She was a second-grade teacher with a spark, and I was a guy working 18-hour shifts trying to build something. We made it 5 years married, 8 years together. I thought we were synced. Then came her 30th birthday. The breakdown started, not overnight, but it was like flipping a switch in slow motion. She spent that whole week crying and doom-scrolling Instagram accounts of women finding themselves in Costa Rica or Bali, real heavy on the candles, and healing the inner goddess talk. I thought it was a phase. I was wrong. She started saying stuff like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I gave my best years to routine. Then she quit her job. No 2 weeks notice, no plan. Just walked in one day and said, I can't teach anymore. I need to find meaning. Meaning came in the form of an online course run by some woman. $1,200 for a self-paced digital wellness certification. I looked her up. Serena was a self-described high priestess of emotional sovereignty with a TikTok following and a merch line. Red flags everywhere. I brought it up, and Tessa accused me of being stuck in a scarcity mindset. That was the new thing. Buzzwords, sound bites. We started fighting. Not yelling, just constant friction. I'd ask how much she spent this week, and she'd throw it back at me. You're controlling. I'd ask what the end goal was, and she'd say, I'm building a brand. A brand? We had $13,000 in savings. She was building debt. You're addicted to stability. Meanwhile, the savings were disappearing fast. I didn't even realize how bad until I pulled the records later. And then there was Savannah. Savannah's been in her life forever, but lately, she was around nonstop. Think if Gwyneth Paltrow and Alex Jones had a podcast baby? Always barefoot. Always vaping something herbal. She hyped Tessa up like she was the second coming of divine femininity. Encouraged her to ditch her job, her life, and apparently, me. That's when I knew something was up. Tessa started asking weird questions during dinner. Do you think we settled too young? Swing. What if I left for a while to find myself? If we weren't married, would you still choose me now? Zrenia. Like I was supposed to beg her to stay? But I didn't. I just said, I'd still choose you. But you don't sound like someone who wants to be chosen. She didn't answer. Just looked past me like I was part of the drywall. That weekend, she told me she and Savannah were going to Arizona for a 2-week healing retreat. Breathwork, sound baths, intention journaling, the whole deal. She told me not to contact her. Said she needed to release attachment and that my text would disturb the vibration. I told her, all right, have a good trip. The second her car left the driveway, I was already in the garage, not breaking down, planning. It took me a couple days to decide on getting legal help. I wasn't sure if I was overthinking things at first, but then I remembered a buddy of mine. I called Dave, who got railroaded in his divorce 2 years ago. His ex-wife pretended to be sweet and understanding until she cleaned him out, took half his pension, sold his boat, and tried to poison him against his own daughter. I asked him, who was your lawyer again? Keller, he said. Stone cold killer in a suit. Don't ask him about his weekend. Just pay him and follow orders. That was enough for me. I called Keller's office the next morning, paid cash for a consult, and went to see him 2 days later. His office looked like a file cabinet exploded. Not a single picture on the wall. He didn't even pretend to smile. Just sat me down and said, start talking. So I laid it all out. The job quitting, the spiritual delusions, the weird finding herself talk, her vanishing act. Keller nodded once. You're not overreacting. You're smart. Most men wait until she drains the accounts and changes the locks. You're early. That's good. He gave me 3 instructions. 1. Secure finances. Move my direct deposit. Open a new checking account. Cut off her access to all shared accounts. 2. Document everything. Every withdrawal. every Instagram post where she talked about rebirth, growth, or any other crap that sounded like she was escaping prison. 3. Say nothing. Don't confront her. Don't tip her off. Let her make the next move while I made mine. I followed the steps like blueprints, pulled old messages, took screenshots of her coaching brand ideas, and made sure the house deed still only had my name on it. Keller explained that because I bought the house before we married and she was never added to the title, it counted as separate property. Legally mine. Same with my truck. As long as she never contributed toward the mortgage or vehicle payments, she couldn't touch them. He also told me to pull credit reports in case she tried to open anything in my name. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't heartbroken, I was pissed. Not because she wanted to leave, but because she was setting me up to be the villain in her reinvention story. I wasn't about to play that part. So when she came back from Arizona and walked into our house like nothing happened, I didn't flinch. She kissed my cheek and went to the bedroom, grabbed her laptop, said she needed to check in with her coaching clients. I nodded and kept watching the game. The next morning, her text came in, "Hey, I'm going to stay at Savannah's for a few more days. I need space. Please don't make this harder." I didn't reply, because she had no idea she just gave me everything I needed. She had no idea what I was really doing while she was meditating in a yurt with her third eye sisters. While she was off in the desert chasing cosmic clarity, I was on the phone with my credit union, closing access to the joint account before she could clean it out. I kept things quiet. No dramatic moves, just strategic ones. If this was chess, she made the first move with glitter and hashtags. I answered with bank statements and property laws. By the time she texted me about staying at Savannah's, every piece was in motion, and I knew something else was coming. She didn't want space. She was soft launching her divorce. It landed the next day. Not a conversation. A damn text. She wrote, "Jake, I've decided to move forward with a divorce. All communication should go through my attorney. His contact is below. No phone call, no meeting, just a signature swap like I was being kicked off a phone plan." I didn't respond. I forwarded it straight to Keller. I wasn't cold. I just didn't see the point in trying to have a real talk with someone who'd already emotionally moved out 2 months ago. He replied in under 5 minutes, "Let's go." We didn't just prep, we activated. Keller submitted a notice of separate counsel, acknowledged the petition, and filed a counterclaim of his own with our evidence folder already brewing. Let me give you a breakdown for the guys reading this, who might someday be in this hell. When divorce hits, the state looks at who contributed what assets were joint, and what the timeline of events was. The order of those 3 things determines who walks away with what. She quit her job. I kept working. She left the home. I stayed. Those weren't just choices. They were legal markers. And to be crystal clear for the guys who don't know, Kansas law considers marital abandonment as a major factor in determining things like spousal support. And what did she do? Left voluntarily, by text, and told me not to contact her. That was gold. That was proof she was the one who ended the marital unit. Keller had me collect everything. Pay stubs, house payments, credit card statements from the last 6 months, messages, Instagram posts, a screenshot of one of her stories from while she was in Sedona that said, "Sometimes walking away is the most empowered thing you can do." Keller labeled that voluntary exit from marital obligations. He had me change the locks, not because she was locked out, but because she no longer had residency. That text where she said she was staying with Savannah, that meant she relocated. Her lawyer could argue whatever emotional fiction they wanted, but legally, she gave up occupancy. That week, I started boxing up her stuff. Not dumping it, just organizing it. Keller told me to be surgical. No tampering. No emotional triggers. Just label everything and keep receipts. I hired movers. Paid cash. Had them deliver every labeled box to Savannah's apartment. I included her personal journals, her sage bundles, her ring light, even the crappy tripod she used to film her rants. Everything except her medication and personal legal documents. I kept those in a separate envelope, logged and untouched. Then Savannah texted me. Long messages, voice notes, guilt-baiting me like she was her PR agent. "She gave you the best years of her life. She's scared and broke, and you're throwing her away. You're emotionally abusive and controlling." I screenshotted every word and sent them to Keller. His reply? "We're moving to cease and desist. Let her lawyer chew on this." Meanwhile, I noticed something funny. Some of our joint credit charges didn't add up. I thought we had $13,000 in savings. Turns out, only $3,000 was left. I pulled 6 months of statements. She spent $1,700 on retreats and spiritual seminars, $900 on crystals and candles from sites I'd never even heard of, $1,200 on certifications, $2,300 in miscellaneous transactions, labeled under coaching tools, Reiki kits, and something called a Yoni steam throne. That was it. I was done playing nice. Qley filed for a full forensic audit on her digital payments. We asked for Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, and even crypto transfers. Legally, she had to disclose all financial activities in the marriage window. If she didn't, that was perjury. If she lied, that was fraud. 2 days later, we got partial records, and one name kept showing up like a stain: Elias R. Every Thursday night, a payment: $100, $150, sometimes $175. Captions like, Session 3, Zrenia, Inner Clarity, Clearing Trauma Field. It wasn't coaching. It was a side hustle with benefits. Qley grinned and said, "Congratulations. You've just found income, infidelity, and concealed assets." She wanted empowerment. Now she's going to get accountability. We added it to the counterclaim and labeled the money marital property since it was earned during the marriage and concealed. Then Qley sent her lawyer a notice of violation for false disclosure and proposed we move forward with a motion to deny spousal support. A few days later, the circus came to my front lawn. Savannah didn't come alone. She brought Tessa with her. She brought backup: Tessa's brother Nathan and their aunt Cleo. She ran a blog and once tried to sue a supermarket for displaying toxic masculine beef ads. They rolled up in Savannah's Prius like they were leading a resistance movement. Savannah in her Birkenstocks and caftan. Cleo in oversized sunglasses, flanked by Nathan in a ballistic vest like he expected a gunfight. Savannah started filming before she even got out of the car. I was watching from the ring cam with a coffee in hand. "Jake, we are here to retrieve Tessa's belongings and document the emotional trauma you've inflicted," Savannah said into her iPhone like she was narrating a documentary. Nathan banged on the door like a cop on a raid. I tapped the ring intercom. "You're trespassing. This is your one warning." Savannah laughed. "You think you can hide behind legalese?" "No," I said. "I hide behind a cease and desist and a police report. Leave." They didn't. Instead, Cleo walked around the side and tried to open my side gate. That triggered the alarm I had Keller's guy wire in last week. Nathan started yelling at the cam, "This isn't over. You don't get to silence a woman just because you're emotionally inferior." Then, Savannah marched toward my driveway, phone still recording like she was building a documentary case. Tessa stood back, arms crossed like a martyr. Nathan paced near the sidewalk, muttering to himself. That's when Savannah lost it. She walked right up to my truck, my F-250, the one I've poured hours into, and started yelling at the ring cam about patriarchal control mechanisms. Then she pulled a wrench out of her tote bag and swung it right into the passenger side door, once, then twice. I just let the camera roll. She cracked the side mirror on the third swing. That's when I hit the silent panic button Qley had set me up with through his security guy. They didn't make it 10 minutes before squad cars rolled up. Cops separated them fast. Nathan claimed I was provoking them psychically. The officer looked dead at Savannah and said, "You hit a vehicle with a tool. That's vandalism." She was cited on the spot. Report filed. Ring footage downloaded onto a flash drive. I didn't press charges that day, not yet, but Qley told me to hold on to everything. We'd use it when it mattered. And that was just the warm-up. Tessa's lawyer must have gotten wind of the new footage, because the next day he sent a condescending email to Qley. "My client has expressed concerns over hostile energy and inappropriate reactions from Mr. Jake regarding mutual acquaintances attempting peaceful resolution." Qley's response was 2 words: "Prove it." Then the gloves came off. Tessa filed an emergency motion for temporary spousal support. Claimed I locked her out, cut her off, and left her destitute and emotionally shattered. Her affidavit painted her as a barefoot saint. Claimed she was emotionally manipulated, silenced, and financially stripped after years of nurturing our home. Qley filed our reply same day. Included in it were the ring footage, bank statements showing she drained the savings, the delivery logs proving I sent her belongings with full documentation, and the best part, her own Instagram caption about leaving to start a new life free of dead weight. But what dropped jaws? Savannah's TikToks. She had posted 2 of them, a rant about burning it all down and taking back the narrative, and footage of Tessa at a spa during her trauma recovery week. Qley had all of it entered into the record. He wrote, "If the petitioner is truly destitute, she must explain the spa, the security detail, and the media campaign." The judge denied the emergency motion without a hearing. Labeled her affidavit factually inconsistent with submitted evidence. Tessa was quiet after that, but Nathan wasn't. The next day, I got a visit at work. He showed up at my job site, told the receptionist he was there to settle this man-to-man. One of my crew guys, Daryl, been with me since we were teens, stepped in. Daryl said, "Unless you're here to pour concrete or answer subpoenas, walk off." Nathan didn't move. He stepped forward like he owned the place, chest puffed and jaw locked. "You think hiding behind your little worker bees and fancy lawyers makes you a man?" he barked. Daryl stood between us, stone cold. "You need to step back." Nathan ignored him. "You emotionally broke my sister. You humiliated her. You ruined her life. And now you think a bunch of paperwork makes it right?" I walked over slowly, hard hat still on. "Get off my sight, Nathan, before I make the call." He laughed, but it wasn't funny. "You can't intimidate me. I've taken down worse than you. She should have never married someone like you in the first place." By now, 3 of my guys had circled up. Nathan pushed Daryl. Bad move. Daryl didn't retaliate. He waved over to the trailer where our on-site security guy, Lewis, was already on the phone. I looked at Nathan and said, "You want to be a hero? Go apply to Comic-Con. This is a job site." Security arrived within minutes. 2 guys, firm and fast. Nathan tried to argue, started yelling about constitutional rights and protecting his family. Didn't matter. They grabbed him by the arms and dragged him off the property, kicking and screaming, threatening lawsuits, yelling back at me, "This isn't over. You're gonna pay for what you did to her." I just nodded. "Tell your sister to put it in writing." Nathan backed down, but the tension hit red. And that night, I got an anonymous tip from a guy I went to school with who now works at city planning. He said someone filed a formal complaint against my house for, get this, light pollution triggering emotional regressions. Apparently, they said my motion sensor floodlights were disrupting the healing aura of the neighborhood and had caused their dog to become existentially anxious. I had to read the form twice. There was even a handwritten note attached. "Reconsider your energy footprint before karma balances the ledger." Savannah. It had to be. Keller submitted an injunction for harassment. It didn't go anywhere legally, but Keller logged it as part of the growing harassment pattern. One more absurd attempt to provoke a response Tessa was now tied to, 3 parties actively attempting to disrupt my personal and professional life. And then came the audit results. Liam, Keller's tech guy, got full logs from Tessa's Venmo and PayPal accounts. Elias R. wasn't a one-time payment. He was on a schedule, weekly, sometimes multiple times a week. Captions like, "Post-session gratitude. Zrenia Tantra Prep. See you Friday." One transaction included a message. "Thanks for last night. Felt so good." Keller labeled it, "Evidence of a monetized emotional and sexual relationship during the marriage." We amended our counterclaim. Infidelity, concealed income, waste of marital assets, and we weren't done. I asked Liam to check for anything else. Anything shady. 2 days later, I got the call. "Jake, you need to sit down." And buddy, it was worse than I thought. Liam wasn't the type to sound rattled, so when he said, "Jake, you need to sit down," I braced for something nuclear. He wasn't wrong. I found another payment processor. It's tied to an alias Gmail account, but the recovery phone number matches Tessa's old fitness tracker subscription. And it's linked to an OnlyFans profile. He kept going. "She's been running it for months. Not just wellness crap either. It's branded under some woo-woo name. Bio says, reclaiming divine feminine energy through exclusive self-expression. It's got guided rituals, sensual movement clips, live sessions, but some of these pay-per-view captions are way past PG. Liam wasn't joking. He forwarded me screenshots. Her face wasn't hidden. Her wedding ring was visible in some of them. And there it was. Elias R., the top subscriber. Guy was tipping her in the hundreds. Sent messages like, "Loved the private session. Hope your truck gets fixed soon. You're too powerful for a man like him. Keep rising. I'd protect you forever." Liam pulled transaction logs, payout summaries, IP matches. It was a digital autopsy. She'd been running an OnlyFans for months, raking in unreported cash while crying poor in court. And Elias? Her top tipper, her side hustle, her news acrid masculine. Keller's voice was cold fury when I told him. That's not just concealed income. That's monetized infidelity. And if any of that money went toward fixing the truck Savannah trashed, that's marital asset laundering. We didn't wait. We filed a supplemental affidavit with the court. Keller labeled the evidence packet Exhibit G, payout documentation, login history, message logs, and one screenshot of Elias telling her, "This should cover your car problem, babe." We were showing the court that not only did she lie about being broke, she was making thousands while crying poor and using that money to clean up the mess her friend made on my property. But that wasn't the worst of it. Keller added waste of marital assets, perjury, and fraudulent concealment to the list. We also filed a motion for financial sanctions and submitted an anonymous report to the IRS about her unreported income. If she failed to amend her disclosure by the hearing, she'd be facing tax evasion on top of civil penalties. Tessa's lawyer responded with a laughably vague email. There appears to be some misunderstanding. Ms. Tessa has been exploring alternative business models during a time of emotional upheaval. She wasn't aware these required immediate financial reporting. Keller's reply with one line. She monetized nudity and used it to fund property restoration while lying under oath. There's no misunderstanding, just evidence. Meanwhile, Savannah tried to save face by going on IG Live. She called me a misogynist, trying to bankrupt a woman for surviving. Claimed I had weaponized the legal system to destroy a creative healer. Then she launched a GoFundMe for Tessa, titled Rise from the Rubble. It raised $82 before someone flagged it for fraud. But even better, Savannah accidentally posted a screenshot of her text with Tessa, where she wrote, "Don't tell your lawyer about the cash payments from Elias. Keep that separate. He was donating to the journey, not the brand." We pulled it. Keller grinned and said, "That's enough to put the final nail in the coffin." We were now armed with Venmo logs from Elias showing recurring sessions before the divorce. OnlyFans income with tied payout history and subscriber DMS. A notarized affidavit authenticating the digital records. No wiggle room on admissibility. Ring cam footage of Savannah vandalizing my truck with a wrench. A civil judgment against Savannah for property damage, proving third-party interference with marital assets. Public social posts smearing my name in live streams, attempting to paint me as abusive. Screenshots of Savannah coaching Tessa to lie to her lawyer and hide cash payments. Liam submitted a notarized affidavit authenticating the digital records, so there'd be no wiggle room on admissibility. It was turning into a legal cage match, and we were in control of the mat, the lights, and the ref. But what made this sweeter? We found Tessa used my name, my full legal name, as a testimonial on her website for Sacred Femme Revive. Claimed I supported her journey and endorsed the value of feminine reintegration. That was the final straw. Keller filed a cease and desist for impersonation and unauthorized testimonial use. Added it to the motion for civil damages, and because she used that testimonial to solicit paying clients, it qualified as fraudulent representation. I wasn't just dealing with a wife-turned-stranger, I was dealing with a full-on con artist. And then came the final twist. Liam's last report. Turns out Tessa applied for a business loan under my address, used our marital address on the application, claimed she was starting a women's retreat studio, filed it 2 weeks before her desert trip. Guess who co-signed it? Savannah. Guess who lied on the application about shared assets? Tessa. They never got the funds. The application got flagged due to mismatched tax ID entries, but Keller got a copy of the submitted form, filed that under attempted financial fraud and identity misuse. We were no longer negotiating a divorce. We were now preparing to sue her for damages. While the state hadn't filed criminal charges, Keller focused on locking down civil claims, financial fraud, false endorsement, and concealment. Enough to bury her in penalties. As for Nathan, he came back, and this time, it wasn't just some unhinged performance. It was 9 p.m. when I noticed his car parked across the street, lights off, windows up. I watched from the blinds as he stepped out, pacing slow, like he was working up to something. Then he crossed the street and stood at the edge of my driveway, staring dead at the house. I opened the front door just enough to be seen. He pointed straight at me. "You think this is over?" he said. "You think you can humiliate her, drag her through court, ruin her life, and just go like nothing happened?" I didn't respond, just kept my hand on the doorframe. His tone was off, not loud, low, steady, like a guy who'd already decided on the next step. "You're a threat to women like her," he kept going. "People like you don't change. Maybe someone needs to change it for you." That's when I shut the door and called the cops. He didn't leave. He walked right up to the porch and stood there, close enough to trigger the ring cam. I heard him through the mic muttering something about retribution and karma balancing the scales. When the officers arrived, he got agitated fast, told them he was protecting his innocent sister and that I was a danger to the community. Then he made the mistake of reaching into his jacket while yelling at one of the cops. They pinned him to the hood of his own car in seconds, trespassing, disturbing the peace, resisting instructions. Body cam footage caught the whole thing, especially the part where he shouted, "If the law won't stop him, someone else will." Keller filed the report into our motion the next morning. The judge didn't even hesitate to extend the restraining order to cover all direct family and known associates. And just like that, the final pretrial date was set. The courthouse wasn't glamorous. I wore my boots, Qley told me to look clean, not soft. You're here to win. Tessa walked in 5 minutes before it started. No Savannah, no Cleo, just her and her lawyer Jennings, a man who looked like a crumpled tax form with a pulse. She didn't look at me, didn't even glance. Qley leaned over and whispered, "This won't take long." The judge came in. Older guy, military background, no patience for fluff. He skimmed the docket, then raised an eyebrow at the volume of motions. "Mr. Qley, you've submitted 5 supplemental claims since the initial filing." Qley smiled. "All documented, Your Honor. Every twist, backed by time-stamped evidence." Qley stood. "Your Honor, we've named a non-party associate, Savannah Miller, in several filings. She's been issued a restraining order for property destruction and trespass, and we've entered a civil judgment for damages she caused to the respondent's vehicle during the marriage. Her texts also show coordinated intent to conceal financial transactions on behalf of the petitioner. We consider her a co-conspirator in fraudulent asset concealment." The judge flipped to the section with her name, read over the screenshots, then looked at Tessa. "You surrounded yourself with people who didn't just enable your behavior. They escalated it into legal territory. That's relevant." And we began. Jennings opened weak, claimed Tessa had been left financially stranded, that she was navigating life transitions, and that my alleged controlling behavior had left her psychologically disoriented. He tried to humanize her. The judge stopped him mid-sentence. "Is there any evidence of abuse or misconduct by the respondent?" Component placement. Jennings stammered, "Not in traditional form, but then let's move to finances." Qley stood and dropped the hammer. "Your Honor, Exhibit G includes OnlyFans earnings, Venmo payments from a man romantically involved with the petitioner, and video footage of property damage from the petitioner's close associate, all while still legally married. She also used my client's legal name without consent to solicit funds. We consider this concealment, infidelity, fraud, and reputational harm." He handed over the thick packet. The judge flipped through silently, stopping at the message from Elias. "Use this for your car fix, babe." "Mrs. Tessa," the judge said, eyes fixed on the page. "Is this your account?" Zrenia Jennings tried to intercept. "Your Honor, she was unaware of the implications of monetized self-expression. It was a coping mechanism, not a business." Qley didn't flinch. "She claimed to be unemployed. Yet we have financial transactions, subscription revenue, and advertising linked to those activities. She lied on her disclosure." The judge nodded, stone-faced. "And the vandalism claim?" Qley passed over the ring cam video. "Savannah Miller, petitioner's associate, struck the respondent's truck with a wrench. Petitioner was present, did not intervene, and accepted financial assistance from Elias R. to cover the repair. That payment came from the same fund her OnlyFans revenue was deposited into. Then submitted the police report from the night Nathan showed up outside my house threatening me. He played the ring footage and cited Nathan's exact words, 'If the law won't stop him, someone else will.'" The judge's face didn't move an inch, but he reached for his pen and extended the restraining order to include Nathan by name. Jennings muttered something under his breath. "Speak up," the judge said. Tessa was emotionally vulnerable. She wasn't thinking clearly. The judge stared at him for a full 5 seconds. "That's not a defense. That's an excuse. And this court doesn't operate on emotional leniency. It operates on facts. We moved to property. My house, bought pre-marriage, in my name only, no cohabitation contributions proven. Truck, mine. Retirement, mostly pre-marriage." The judge recited the law like he'd done it in his sleep. Respondent retains ownership of all property classified as non-marital. No evidence has been provided indicating co-investment or shared equity. Qley stood one more time. "We are also requesting financial sanctions for false disclosure and denial of all support due to marital misconduct and concealment of material income." Jennings tried a last-ditch maneuver, claimed the OnlyFans earnings were sporadic and not meaningful income. Qley handed over a screenshot showing over $11,000 in deposits. The judge said, "Did the petitioner report this income on her tax return?" Jennings didn't answer. "Mr. Jennings?" "No, Your Honor." The courtroom stayed quiet. No murmurs, just the sound of Tessa fidgeting in her chair. Final ruling came down cold. Final ruling came down cold. House is mine. Truck repairs, Savannah's little stunt, fully reimbursed within 45 days. Spousal support, denied due to infidelity, concealed income, and ongoing coordination with a third party involved in property damage and harassment. OnlyFans and Venmo income ordered disclosed to the IRS. The restraining order now officially included Savannah by name. She wanted to be part of Tessa's revolution? The court just made her part of the legal fallout. Jennings tried to argue one more time. The The judge raised a hand. I don't care what podcast your client listened to. She lied, she hid income, and she brought this circus into my courtroom. We're done here. Gavel down. Tessa stood up but didn't leave right away. For a second, I thought she might say something. Maybe an apology. Maybe one last twist. But nothing. She turned and walked out like the floor had dropped out from under her. I stood up, shook Keller's hand, and nodded to the bailiff on the way out. Felt like walking away from a fire I didn't start, but made damn sure I finished. The day after court, I woke up to the quiet. Not the kind of quiet that makes you anxious. This was the kind that lets your shoulders drop. My phone didn't light up with threats. No more TikToks. No passive-aggressive quotes about healing. Just peace. I made coffee. Sat on my porch and watched the sun rise over my truck. Newly repaired, freshly detailed. Like none of it ever happened. But it did. And every scar left behind was mine to keep. The following week, Keller filed the final paperwork. We declined mediation. No point. There was nothing left to split, nothing left to talk about. The judgment was final. Tessa got nothing but her own mess and a tax issue she'd be explaining to the IRS with shaky hands and a Pinterest quote. Savannah? Her Etsy page disappeared. Word got out fast. A few creators who'd backed her sisterhood brand sent me screenshots of Savannah trash-talking Tessa behind her back, saying, "She got in too deep. I just wanted to be famous." The civil suit for the truck damage moved forward. Savannah's lawyer, a court-appointed public defender, offered a soft settlement. I declined. I didn't want hush money. I wanted the judgment. I wanted that damage to stick like dried cement on her record. The court awarded $6,200 in damages, garnished from any future income over $35,000. Judgment entered, publicly searchable. That wasn't revenge. That was insurance. Any future brand, landlord, or business partner she tried to con would hit that record like a brick wall. As for Nathan, banned from my job sites, charged with misdemeanor assault and trespass, forced to write a public apology as part of a deferred plea. Last I heard, he was trying to get into a private security firm. The background check killed that quick. Tessa, though, she tried one more time. About 3 weeks after the court decision, I got a letter. Not an email. A handwritten 4-page letter in loopy script on pastel paper. She didn't ask for money. Didn't ask for forgiveness either. She tried to reframe the whole thing as a necessary spiritual fracture. Said she still loved the part of me that believed in her once. And hoped that one day I could remember her as a woman in pain, not a monster. I folded the letter, slid it into a manila folder with everything else, and locked it away in my safe, just in case she ever came back with another performance. Because the thing about people like her, they don't change. They just rotate the script. I didn't respond. Instead, I went back to living. I took a vacation, first one in 2 years. Just me, a borrowed motorcycle, and the open road. Didn't even tell anyone where I was going. Slept under the stars in Montana, ate cheap barbecue in Texas, watched a minor league ball game in Tulsa, and didn't check my phone once. When I got back, my crew threw me a party. Keller even showed up and toasted. To Jake, he said. Proof that building something solid means you know how to survive when people try to burn it down. And I did survive. Not just survive, I won. Not because I out-yelled them or played dirtier, but because I stayed steady, patient. I refused to be baited by theatrics and manipulation. She wanted freedom. I gave it to her. Now I sleep like a man who didn't bend. I've got my home, my truck, my business, my damn peace. Tessa, she's now trying to relaunch under a new alias. Keller sent me a screenshot just last week. Althea Rising, feminine embodiment coach, new brand, same con. I forwarded it to the IRS and let it go. In the end, I didn't just rebuild, I upgraded.